First of all, I'm an only child and an introvert, so I'm so excited that we're kind of little today. So welcome. This is fun, and hi to everyone who's joining us on Zoom. I'm Andrea Laszlo, and welcome to Honest Advent. This is an exciting day because not only are we beginning the Advent season, but we're also beginning the church calendar year. And I think that the church year and celebrating rituals and traditions that are part of the seasons of Advent and Christmas, Lent, Easter, ordinary time is a wonderful way to ground ourselves in times of great change, whether it's in our own life or the world around us. And so I was going to forget something. Sorry, 1 second. I have some books over here and I just wanted to show you. The idea for the theme of Honest Advent came to be from this book by Scott Erickson called Honest Advent. And I'm just wondering, what do you think of when you hear the phrase Honest Advent? What comes to mind?
I'll tell you, in my family, I am so strict. We had a rule that we could not even put up a Christmas tree until before Christmas because it took away from Advent.
Yeah.
My poor kids. But anyway, they all survived. Their trees are all up. But that's for me. It's Advent is a season of the church year, and it's an important season. So that's what Honest Advent means to me.
And there's a somber quality, and a lot of people aren't really aware of that because we've, happied it up so much.
Oh, they didn't go to school with the nuns then.
We don't put up a Christmas tree until Christmas Eve.
Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah.
Say that over the phone.
Children either.
We don't put a tree up until Christmas Eve.
And you still don't put it up till Christmas Eve?
Right,
Yeah.
or even outdoor decorations. We
Mhm.
don't light them until, and so we miss out on all the competitions.
And then the day after Christmas, they say, look, they still have their lights up.
Of course. If you want to chime in, please feel free.
Oh, sounds like everybody's.
And then we say to people, don't you remember the song, The 12 Days of Christmas?
Yeah.
We
People
have
think that
the-
that's the 12 days before Christmas.
Yeah.
They
No,
do.
We had until January 6th, I think.
That's right, that's right.
So, and it isn't, in the end about deciding, at least not today, what's right or wrong, but at least becoming aware that Advent has perhaps a different meaning in our Christian tradition than it does in our culture. And it's easy to get sidetracked. It made me think of times in my own life when Advent hasn't felt so honest. In times of grief, there's a sense of disconnection when everything around you is celebratory, or times of, the world, all the hard things that we see and hear. It can feel kind of strange to see all this, happy, performative kind of stuff. So it's just an interesting thing to hold. So what I'm going to do today, first, I'm going to lead us in a spiritual practice to just sort of ground us in our space. And then we'll talk a little bit about holding the darkness and the light in this season. And then we're going to do an exercise using the photographs you're seeing in front of you, just a short little practice and do a little writing on that. And then I'm going to close us with a blessing. But our theme today is there are a number of themes to different parts of Advent. Today I've chosen darkness and light as our theme. And so to that end, the verse we're going to use for our practice is, the light shines in the darkness and the darkness has not overcome it. That's John 1:5. And before we begin the practice, I thought it would be interesting to read to you a few of the other translations. I think it's always helpful to hear those. So I'm just going to read them to you. I'm going to read 4 and just listen for if one of them speaks to you. And if it does and you want to write it down, that's fine. You don't have to do that. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. The light shines on in the darkness, and the darkness did not absorb it and is unreceptive to it. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overpowered it. The life light blazed out of the darkness. The darkness couldn't put it out. So for our practice, we'll use the first translation I read, and it's called breath prayer. Have any of you ever done breath prayer before or have heard of it? So it's so easy. That's why I love it. You'll walk out of here today, breath prayer experts. All it really is as you inhale and exhale, you repeat a word or a phrase or a verse. It's a way of praying unceasingly, the way Paul talked about. And it can really be anything that you want to use. It could just be the word peace, or it could be a verse that's meaningful to you. It's whatever you would like to use. And I like to tell people that stay with it. If you find something you like, don't become that. Now I have to do a different breath prayer every day to be an overachiever in the prayer world. So you know who you are. It's good to stick with it for a while. So we're going to use the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. But what I'm going to do, and that one's actually a little long for a breath prayer, but I'm going to use this verse, and what I'm going to do is read it to you. And you're going to inhale and exhale with each repetition, but I'm going to gradually shorten it. So I'm going to say the light shines in the darkness does not overcome it. You'll inhale and exhale while I say that. Then I'm going to say the light shines in the darkness, and you'll inhale and exhale while I say that. Then the light shines, then the light, and then I'm going to go back out to the light shines in the darkness. Does that make sense? Basically, okay. So it'll take us about maybe 5 minutes to do that. And you can either focus on the sound of my voice, or you can focus on your own breath, whatever feels right to you. And if you're comfortable, it can be nice to close your eyes during this, just, to get centered. But if that's not comfortable for you, then maybe just look down just so you don't get distracted. And when we're done, I will bring us out of the silence and take us where we're going next. So let's just get settled in our chair wherever you're sitting at home, and just feel the weight of your body on your chair or couch or wherever you're sitting. Notice the points of contact where your body touches your chair or wherever you're sitting. And just take a deep breath. Now we'll begin. And as I read, just inhale and exhale with each verse or each part. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The light shines in the darkness. The light shines. The light. The light shines. The light shines in the darkness. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. So what are we talking about when we say the word darkness? I suppose it could be a number of things. But it seems to me, there are two main things that come up, and one is evil and the other is uncertainty. And those are very different things. Sometimes they're connected, but they are very different. So I think it's really important to know which kind of darkness we're talking about. So for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, this is a physically dark time. The darkness is literally on us for a longer period. And until a few days before Christmas, it keeps getting darker and darker, earlier and earlier. And there can be a deeply human fear of darkness. And that's one of the reasons that the church uses language of darkness and light to talk about the coming of Jesus. And the metaphor of light coming into darkness can be really comforting. In his book, this is really wonderful. I have a lot of wonderful books, so get me started talking about books, but this is Music of Silence by David Steindl Rast. And he's really wonderful, but he says that when John says the light shines in the darkness, he's not saying that the light shines into the darkness like a flashlight into a tent, but rather that the light shines in the midst of the darkness, that really the darkness itself is shining. Kind of hard to wrap your brain around, but there is a psalm where the psalmist says, I will say to that darkness, be my light. Theological language around darkness and light can also be somewhat problematic. One obvious problem is that it can promote prejudice against people with darker skin, because we've conflated darkness with evil in our collective subconscious. So it's really important to be aware of that. There's another problem too, and Barbara Brown Taylor writes about this in her book, which I did not bring, but it's outstanding. It's called Learning to Walk in the Dark. I highly recommend this book. She says that it also gives people an excuse to relegate everything that's difficult or challenging to the so-called dark, and can give people of faith a giant closet where they can shove everything that feels uncomfortable or different or threatening, without having to think too much about it. And essentially it rewards their unconsciousness. So Advent asks us to take a pause and to be honest about the darkness and light, not only in the world, but also in ourselves. To affirm that sorrow and evil and death are indeed real, but also to affirm that joy and goodness and kindness and the resurrection are just as real, more real. And since honesty begins with us, I'd like just to do a reflection exercise. And we're just going to kind of check in, like, where am I at the beginning of this Advent? And it's always changing, you know, even if we got together on Wednesday and did this, you might choose something different. So this is just for now, for right now. And what I'm going to invite you to do is to choose a picture that seems to kind of like, yeah, this is my life right now. And I would not think about it too much with your brain. This is more of like a heart, gut feeling, just in this moment. And I'm going to give you a few minutes to choose a picture, and then I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to give you an example with this picture. And if anyone loves this one, you can use it, okay? I'll give it away after I'm done, but this will be my example. And, but first just choose a picture. And if you want to get up to look around, you can, or you can just choose from where you're at. Yes. And take your time. You have a few more minutes, we're not in a rush.
Let me ask you a question about the breath prayer. So just to remind me, so were we breathing in and out as you said those things, or is there just a breath in and then in the pause? So like when you say like light, is that light?
It could be either way. Normal, like typical breath prayer would be not as long as the full verse, because that is kind of long for one breath.
Sure.
So you're kind of saying it with each inhale and exhale. That would be traditional breath prayer.
So for example, a light shines in the darkness.
I kind of might go, if I were doing it myself, the light shines as I breathe in the darkness as I breathe out. Does that make
I
sense?
flunked this. It's okay, but now I think I'm in the remedial. I'm feeling better. No, I know there's no right or wrong, but I wanted to make sure I understood how you were thinking about it. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate your asking the question and being vulnerable.
Comment, just when you were speaking about light shining in the darkness and the darkness being kind of the source of the light in a way. It made me think of glow in the dark paint. It's like something that you don't see necessarily in the light, it's there, but when the darkness comes, suddenly you see the light shining out, and it wouldn't be there if there wasn't the dark.
I love
that.
that. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
It's like that phosphorescent water, the stuff that's in water, but has to be dark.
Has to be dark, you don't see it.
There's so many beautiful metaphors like that, and they're so helpful. So I so appreciate you saying that. I love the seed metaphor too, because all these things are happening with the seed in the ground, but it is in total darkness.
Yeah.
So I think everyone has an image. So I'm going to give you can actually have all the time you want. I'm moving a little faster than I thought I would, but that's okay. But at least 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to write and answer some questions. The first one is going to be around your senses. So I want you to look at your image. Don't do this now, just listen to me, and then you'll do it after. Look at your image and think about, what do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel or touch? What do I smell? And what do I taste? And there may be a question or two that doesn't fit, but just try to answer as many of them as you can, because it's one wonderful way to enter the image. And if you're a head person like me, sometimes you rush into like the deep stuff or thinking about it. It's really good to start with just your senses. So an example, if this was my image, I might say, well, I see lots of color. I hear artists rinsing their paintbrushes in the sink. I touch, it's very gooey if I were to touch it. And I smell the chemical smell of the paints. So that's just an example. And so that's the first thing, your senses. Maybe just write the word senses on your paper so you don't forget, because I'm going to give you more questions. And then the next question is, what is the image saying to you, and how does it connect to you in your life right now? And so you can either use bullet points, or my preferred way, because I love journaling, is to write sentences and kind of see where your pen takes you. So if this were my image, I might say, I'm in a really creative place right now. and I'm using lots of paints in my paint box. I might say, it's messy. Life's messy right now. Things are running together. So there's a lot of ways you could go, with the image. So that's number 2. How does it connect with your life right now? And what is it saying to you? And then the third question I want you to consider is, how do these words, or phrases connect with the coming Advent season for you? So if this were my image, I might say, I'm feeling called by the Spirit as to how I can create more deeper connection with God in these weeks leading up to Advent. Or I might say, there's a lot of paints in this paint box. I need to be thinking about during Advent, how can I take away some of this? There's a lot going on here. So those are just a couple of ideas. So does that make sense? Those questions make sense? Does anyone have any questions? All right. Well, enjoy this time of creativity. I'll give you 10 to 15 minutes. And don't worry, I'll let you know when time is getting close.
Sorry. Not what I wanted. Very,
You're in big trouble
very,
now.
very not in keeping with what I was.
One more minute, and then we'll have an opportunity to share if you wish. So is there anyone who would feel comfortable or called sharing about the senses piece of this practice? Like, what did you notice? And was there anything that surprised you?
I chose, this is my picture, and it was just very close, and that was calling to me right away. And the senses that I were experiencing were really, I was seeing the soft lights, kind of the yellow and green colors, and how there's this transition from the darker up in the forefront to that. I just kind of liked its softness. The smell was kind of, there's some, when you're outside, there's kind of a mix of kind of the little bit of the city smell, but some organic softness, but it felt clean too. The feel, I was thinking of my hands not being cold or warm, especially today, my hands are cold. And so the feel was just kind of neutral. Because of the time of day that I was positioning it, the taste was kind of like remnants of maybe having had some coffee in the morning. And then hearing, I was kind of really putting myself in the setting of the background noise of kind of the city when it's calm and quiet, the background noise of traffic, but that's kind of peaceful.
Love that. It sounds like you really were immersed in that setting for that time.
Yeah, just right there.
Yeah,
Right in it.
right there. Does anyone else want to share anything about the senses or what the image is saying to you and how it might connect with your life right now? And obviously, if you do share, you don't have to share everything that you wrote. It could just be a little piece.
Well, this girl, woman out on this lake. Just a little bit of what I was thinking. I thought if I were to go out onto a lake like that, I think what I would hear the most would at first be all the thoughts in my own head, because I'm out alone and that's what I do. My head doesn't usually shut up, but and it can be it can be pretty easy for me to shut out the world even when everyone's around me and just keep thinking of things. But eventually the thoughts would have to fade. And looking at the picture, it's kind of hard for me to imagine the noises because it looks so peaceful. It doesn't look like there's anything around to make a sound, but of course there is. It's just not things I usually notice. Like eventually when my thoughts quieted down, there would be crickets and maybe frogs, and maybe I'd hear birds, and it wouldn't be loud per se, but the fact that eventually when I tune out everything in my head, I could finally hear it. It would be like those pinpoints of light in the darkness, those pinpoints of sound in the silence. And I would remember just how alive and how alive nature is. So that's what I was thinking about that.
I love your self-awareness and how you could imagine yourself out on the lake in that boat. And at first, the thoughts would just still be coming, even though you're in this beautiful space. But you also are aware that if I stay out there long enough, those will fade and I will become one with this incredible landscape. That's really beautiful. Anyone else?
We have a person coming up out of the water with swim fins on. It was very, I took this as a very symbolic picture. I mean, I have been scuba diving. I know exactly what that feels like, but there's no scuba tank here, so it's not quite over intellectualize them, but
You're allowed.
so there's nothing to smell because I have no mouthpiece. So I'm a woman emerging from the cold and dark, looking up to my emergence or re-emergence into the light and the air. The water is warming as I rise, but I know that the air will be chill. I am weightless and I'm buoyed up, but this time is going to pass. It's been hard to breathe, but soon the air is going to rush in and I will be reborn. I don't know what lies on the other side of that shimmering wall, but I do know that I need to be there. I have been too long submerged, and it is time to ascend.
Wow, that is like a poem.
Mhm.
Are you a poet?
I sometimes.
Beautiful, really beautiful.
Well, I'll do mine because it's totally different. It's more practical. So you see somebody looking through a light. And so I just, and you know what, somehow I missed all of what we're supposed to do. So I said, I'm exiting a dark place, 20 days of radiation treatment for breast cancer, which took place over a whole month. And I'm not even a week out of that. The light was always there. And I need to share this light with those who are in a dark place who were there with me, to realize that they were also in the dark with me. And I just think that's very important. I was not alone in this dark place.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Mhm.
Thank you.
A different kind of poetry.
Indeed.
I was never one to hold back, George, you know that.
I didn't think you would.
Anybody else before I say our closing blessing?
But you're playing. What's it called?
Jenga.
Jenga.
Mhm.
I just put little blurbs down, like feeling I feel absorbed. Never ending. Go here, there, wherever to fall. Disorganized. I see. But at the same time, I see peace. I see organization. See many pieces. And many choices. I hear quietness. I smell warm air. And touch, I feel smoothness. So in other words, there is a lot of choices, a lot to do. And never ending.
So much in all those words you shared.
Yeah, really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Otherwise, I'm happy to read us a blessing. Has anyone ever heard of Jan Richardson? Oh, she's awesome. He's writes a lot of books of blessings, and the blessing I'm going to read to you today, appropriately named A Blessing for Traveling in the Dark. And I'd love for you to hear it. It's Jan's words, but it is also something I really want to give you. So this is also my blessing for you. A blessing for traveling in the dark. Go slow if you can. Slower. More slowly still. Friendly dark or fearsome, this is no place to break your neck by rushing, by running, by crashing into what you cannot see. Then again, it is true. Different darks have different tasks. And if you have arrived here unawares, if you have come in peril or in pain, this might be no place you should dawdle. I do not know what these shadows ask of you, what they might hold that means you good or ill. It is not for me to reckon whether you should linger or you should leave. But this is what I can ask for you. That in the darkness, there be a blessing. That in the shadows, there be a welcome. That in the night, you be encompassed by the love that knows your name. Thank you. And love and peace to each and every one of you. And I'm so glad we were together today.
Thank you so much. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
What's the name of that book?
This book of blessings is called Circle of Grace by Jan Richardson.